it's a tricky question. I mean, it's probably the most difficult question of all. I'm going to ask you, what's your favourite butterfly? Caroline, tell us a bit about the Big Butterfly Count. We're in the throes of it now. Anyone can do it, and it's really important that we do.
Absolutely, yes. So it starts today and it runs for 3 weeks. Anyone can get involved. If you're a complete beginner to counting butterflies and surveying butterflies, or a complete expert, everybody can get involved.
And we just need 15 minutes.
Absolutely, it's hardly any time in your day. You could be in the garden with a coffee, you could have 15 minutes looking at butterflies, or during your lunch hour or something like that.
There might be people who think, well, do you know what, where I hang out there aren't too many butterflies, it's not really worth me doing it, but that's not the attitude we want. We want people to count wherever they are, don't we?
Absolutely. We want data from all over the country. We want in urban areas, the countryside, your garden, everywhere, because it helps us to gather that important data about the situation that our butterflies are in at the moment. So we need that data on abundance, on distribution of the various different species across the whole country.
One of the best things about the count is that it's been going for some time, and we've got good comparative data year on year on year,
right,
and we're seeing real changes in
yeah.
our populations and their distribution.
Yeah, so this is the 13th year of the Big Butterfly Count. So alongside the data we've collected on the Big Butterfly Count, we also have other long-running monitoring programs and projects. So all of that data combined, it's a huge data set that really helps us to understand what's going on with our butterflies and moths, what's happening to their populations and their abundances. And that information can then feed into our conservation programs, and it directly impacts and helps us to focus and target the conservation work on the ground that we need to do desperately to change the fortunes for our butterflies and moths.
Sadly, many people will have noticed in their lifetimes declines in our butterflies. Small tortoiseshells were extremely abundant all over the UK, and everyone's noticed that they've decreased dramatically in number. But it's not just small tortoiseshells, is it? Many other species are having a tough time.
Absolutely. So a lot of the work that we do at Butterfly Conservation is on our highly threatened species. So for example, the checkered skipper, we've just recently started a reintroduction programme for that butterfly. It went extinct in the 1970s due to decline in woodland management. So those woodlands were becoming very enclosed and dark spaces, which we lost the host plant for the butterfly, and therefore it went extinct. So we've been bringing back woodland management into those sites, opening them up, making those rides and the areas flourish and the host plant do well.
So look, some of our butterflies are declining, but when you focus on them, you've got the capacity to bring them back. Checkered skipper is a great example. This animal went extinct in England because of lack of woodland management.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
But Butterfly Conservation has, feather in its cap, reintroduced these animals successfully.
Yes, that's right. So by improving the habitat, getting that habitat management right in those woodlands, we've been able to bring the butterfly back. So it started in 2018. We were able to bring individuals from Belgium over and reintroduce them.
I was there actually that morning.
Yeah.
I was there when the car turned up that had come from Belgium with the little pots of checkered skippers, and then they went out into that environment, and there was an enormous amount of excitement, but also quite a lot of nervousness as well. Yeah. But look, that was a few years ago. Yes. Now they're breeding. They've gone through a number of generations.
That's right. So it's been 5 generations down the line. We've done 2 subsequent further collection trips and releases, and the butterflies are thriving. The population is doing really well, and we were really excited to be able to open up that site this year for the general public to come. There's been a huge amount of interest and passion about wanting to see checkered skipper in England again, because of course you can go to Scotland and see them and they're doing really well there, but it's fantastic to have brought them back to England as well.
Okay, well look, there's no complacency, we know that, but there are other butterfly species, woodland species that you're working with. What about wood white?
Yeah, that's another relatively good success story. We're working across most of the range of that species in England. We understand the ecological needs of that species. We understand about bringing those vetches back and the structure that they require in the ride sites for egg laying. So understanding that unique ecology for that species means we can manage those sites appropriately and the populations will then respond, and they're doing much, much better in many of those woodland sites. So that's another, where we're starting to halt that decline. That's the key, I think.
Yeah, now these projects for you and I are tremendously exciting, and the skills required to make them work are commendable, of course, but in the grand scheme of things, we're tinkering around the edges, because we're talking about 2 species in a number of specialised sites which are highly managed. Outside of that, in the broader landscape, our butterflies are in big trouble. We've got to address that.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly do. I think it is becoming much more challenging now. Some of our tried and tested techniques just aren't working anymore necessarily, because we've got so many other big challenges that we're facing now. So along with habitat destruction and change and management change, we've got the added pressures of climate change, we've got the added pressures of nutrient eutrophication, nitrogen deposition. So all of these new factors are interplaying with all the old factors as well, and causing these populations are really suffering, and we've got to understand those new threats and understand how we can tackle and help to reverse those declines in the face of these new threats.
You see, our old model, going back years, was to collect nature reserves, to find places where species were prospering, throw a fence around them, keep it like it always was, manage very specifically for those animals, and guess what? They would prosper. But outside of those nature reserves, things have got so much harder for insects in general, not just butterflies and moths, that unless we think outside the nature reserve now, we're going to lose them, aren't we?
There is so much more that we have to do. We've got to change the mindset about, road verge mowing and this sort of, everything has to be neat and tidy. We want messy edges. We want wildflowers. They're not weeds. They're just what needs to be growing in these places. And our insects, our butterflies and moths, they need the plants for the caterpillars to feed on. They need the flowers to nectar on as well, and it's important to be able to cater for the whole of the life cycle of all of our insects and wildlife.
Are you like me? Do you remain optimistic because basically we can do checkered skipper, we can do wood white, we can do large blue, I mean the list goes on. When we turn our hand to it, we can make a difference. We can win, but we just need to do it far more broadly and far more
absolutely.
rapidly.
I'm in a really fortunate position that I work for Butterfly Conservation, and I can do this as my job, and it's fantastic, and I really appreciate that. But we need more resources. We need more people working for Butterfly Conservation. We need more people volunteering and helping, and just being really passionate and promoting the cause of butterflies and moths and doing the right thing in the environment.
See, I'm bound to be biased, I know, but put that bias to one side. I'm a great champion of butterfly conservation because I think it's a small charity that punches way above its weight, because it's very clever in what it does. The consecutive surveys are always well thought through. They generate comparative data. The publications that result are truly fantastic. The books that come out and the reports that come out, they're fantastic because anyone can understand them. You don't have to be an entomologist, a lepidopterist. You don't have to be an ist of anything. You can be just someone who likes butterflies and moths, and you can look at them and understand them. It's a fantastic charity, but we do need more supporters, and critically, as you say, we need more volunteers.
Yes, absolutely. So we need people to get out, and doing the big butterfly count is a really easy way to be involved and do your bit for helping to save butterflies and moths. So, getting out, doing those counts, submitting that data is really important in your helping us to build up that picture and to do the conservation work on the ground and push for change.
Where are you going to do your count?
My count, I will do my count in our garden, because very exciting.
Don't tell me you've got some rare butterfly in your garden you're going to cheat.
No, not at all. No, we've just got an extra bit of garden now. So we are creating a wildflower meadow and lots of habitat and a chalk bank, and I'm hoping I might get small blues at some point. But yes, we're making sure it's not going to be just a boring old lawn. It's going to be.
But isn't that great though? You know, isn't that great when you basically, you know, here's an opportunity for you to focus on just looking at the butterflies, and you will use that as a means of measuring the success that you've had. Hold on, we're being interrupted by a small poodle here who has to be a star. The success that you have with your little patch by counting the butterflies, and you're going to feel really, really good if a small blue turns up, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to see what comes into our garden, and you know, and bring in as many species as I possibly can. So, you know, and so I'll be doing a count every day, because you can actually do it more than once. You don't have to just do it once during those 3 weeks. So I'll probably go, and I'm out with my dog, I'll be doing a count, and you know, on the dog walk and various different locations in my local area. So I'll be trying to get as many counts in as I possibly can, because that data is really important. I know that the butterflies aren't always recorded in all of these locations, so it's getting out and making those, you know, taking those records and seeing what's about.
Okay, well, it's a tricky question. I mean, it's probably the most difficult question of all. I'm going to ask you, what's your favourite butterfly?
Yes, it is a really hard one, isn't it? And it changes throughout the season. Am I allowed to? And I'll explain why.
So I'm saying it's really always the most difficult question. Yeah, what's your favourite butterfly? Well, I'll tell you my top 10.
There are.
Go on then, two then.
Well,
two.
Like you with the broomstone, I have to say I agree wholeheartedly on that. For me, it's orange tip at the same time of year for exactly those same reasons.
Right.
That flash of orange is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I have to say also Marsh fritillary has a very close place in my heart, because that's the one I did my PhD studies on.
Right.
So it's, you know, it's quite a rarity, and it was such an honour to be able to work on that.
They're a bit of a dandy though, aren't they? They're quite flashy. They're sort of festooned with a whole range of quite bright colours on their patterning.
And then, but then the caterpillars and the life cycle and the way that the egg batches change different colours as they develop and all of that. So the host plant, Devil's Bit scabious, which is lovely as well. So you know, it's a really special butterfly, and I wouldn't be doing the job I'm doing now if I hadn't been able to do that research work.
And what about is there a UK butterfly species that you haven't seen that you'd really like to? Or have you ticked them all?
Gosh, have I seen everything?
Mountain ringlet. Have you seen mountain ringlet?
I haven't. That is the last one, actually. Mountain ringlet is the last one.
They're quite
haven't
hard.
Managed to get, because I've usually been. They all fly at quite similar times, and so being in the right place at the right time when you're working on various different species, it can be a little bit tricky. So yes, because black hair streak was recently, Glanville fritillary was recently. So yes, mountain ringlet is.
I've seen mountain ringlet. I've been fortunate enough to see.
That's the only one.
Yeah,
that's the only one.
It wasn't difficult. I found them quite easily, and yeah, they're quite sort of a hairy ringlet, really. I've never seen the large blues.
Well,
I know it's bonkers because it was done in my lifetime. We lost them and regained them in my lifetime. They're an exquisitely beautiful animal. I'm lucky enough to have seen them elsewhere, but I've never seen them in the UK.
Well, I'd be very happy to.
I'd love
show
to.
You.
And they're doing so well.
They are doing really well, and I've had the good fortune to be able to work on that species as well, and that's fantastic. But it's such a consortium of amazing people and organisations who are working on that project, and it's been, you know, going for a long time. But that's where we were saying about reintroductions, they are vastly expensive and resource heavy. So it's much, much better to stop the extinction, reverse the declines, get in there early. So we're not having to do these expensive reintroductions.
Exactly.
Let's stop it before they go extinct.
Yeah. Just thought of holly blue because that's another one of my favourites.
Yeah,
holly blue, that lovely powder colour that they have.
You see, and it's
in
like
spring.
Another one in the garden, and it's just sort of fluttering over the ivy, and it's a beautiful, beautiful butterfly.
Small but exquisitely beautiful.
Well, they all are, aren't they? Really, they're all so beautiful in their own ways. So they're fantastic to watch.
Yeah.
Even a meadow brown, even a ringlet, you know.
No, a ringlet.
You know,
the
some
subtlety of a ringlet, a freshly emerged ringlet. come on.
It's just gorgeous.
I know they
absolutely.
are. And they're just
Yes.
like grass, and you go
Yes,
through the grass
yes,
sometimes and you can
yeah.
flush a whole load of them,
And
they all
marbled
come up.
white.
Wood white.
Marbled whites.
Marbled white.
Marbled whites
Oh,
and
yeah.
ringlets flying in those lovely long grassy areas.
Marbled
they're
white on
lovely.
knapweed.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
what you need, isn't
Mhm.
it? Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Oh, well, we've lost ourselves in a butterfly daydream
I
now.
could quite happily chat butterflies all the time.
There's a couple I'm not so keen on, only because I see them as a little bit too flamboyant, a bit up themselves.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Red
swallowtail.
Admiral?
Yeah, Red Admiral I can just about cope with. It's a bit gaudy and vulgar. But no, swallowtail, I don't know. They just seem a little bit effete to me. You know, and they're
quite
so
exotic.
exclusive. 17 sites, oh yes, we're a bit posh. We only hang out in 17 sites in East Norfolk. I don't know. I like the butterflies as ever, as it with all wildlife. It's the stuff that lives around me in my community that I feel most connected to.
Yes, absolutely.
Fox is my favourite mammal.
Yeah.
Sparrowhawk's my favourite bird. They're here, they're in my garden. You know,
Yeah, fantastic.
my favourite butterfly will be the one that I see in my garden.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And that's what's so lovely about them, is that they do visit us. They do come into our spaces and we can see them. And, you know, as an insect group, they're really accessible, aren't they? You know, it's great for children as well. So, you know, yeah, they're there.
Okay, so we've revelled in our butterflies, our personal favourites and those that we'd love to see. We've said why they're important indicators and that it's far easier, more efficient and economic to stop them going extinct rather than to replace them, despite the fact that we champion those endeavours. Butterflies are in trouble. What can people do? You know, not just us, but everyone else.
Well, I would be asking people to get out, do the big butterfly count over the next 3 weeks, do more than one, submit the data, you know, show what's happening in your local area with the butterflies that you're seeing.
Yeah, I'd add one thing. Share the joy. Share the joy. Use the hashtag. Count them to save them, so that we can all, you know, enjoy what you find wherever you are doing your butterfly count. We don't mind being outdone, do we?
No.
If you see more butterflies than us, we're not going to get narked about it much.